Hey everybody, Hunter back again from Showtime Studios. Part number 29 of the build tutorial series. We're moving right along with this thing. This is after the last video. I pulled the body out of the spray booth when we put the primer on it. And we'll see if we can get it up here a little bit closer to the camera. You can start to see that we don't have a whole lot of gaps like we did. You can see that hood line's nice and clean across there. Everything's looking real good. A little bit of a gap back there in the back, right back here, but that's because the body's not all the way down into position. So we're looking real good so far with everything that we got done on it. I'm going to show a couple more tricks along the way. But what we're going to do at this stage here is, now that everything looks pretty decent, we're actually going to go in with a piece of the 3000 grit sanding sponge from 3M, and we're going to go over the whole surface of the model. And what we're looking for is any bad spots in our panel line or in our body work or anything like that, any ups and downs, and we're just going to try to smooth all that out. So all we're doing is, and I've let this dry probably, I would say 20 minutes or so, something like that, from the time that we did the video when we sprayed it. And I am now going in with the 3000 grit and sanding on it. That's why I love this primer. It's a very good product. It works. It dries fast, and it sands very nice, and it sands in a short amount of time. And that's what I like about it. So we're just going in and we're moving the sandpaper around. We're not trying to break through the finish anywhere. All we're doing is just sanding down the primer and trying to get it where we can see if there's any, ups and downs or flaws or stuff that we may need to go back over in our body work. So far, it's looking pretty good. So hopefully we don't have to go back over anything, and we can move on to the painting process, which that would be good. And trying to see if I've got anything that's showing up. Yes, I do. Right back here in the back, I'm still seeing a little bit of where we filled the mold lines. And I got a little bit of a step back here in this one, so I will have to go back over that. I'm not going to do that on camera. It's not really necessary to do on camera. It's just a matter of going back, putting a little bit of filler in there, letting it set a little while, dry up, and then we'll sand it and smooth that out. And while we do that, we'll probably have to hit it with another little coat of primer, but no big deal. We'll just go back over this step right here again. If I'm doing this area here, probably all I'll do is just prime the very back of this, and I won't get anything up here on the sides, and I'll just go ahead and use the 3000 and blend any overspray that comes around the corners. So that'll all be good. We won't have to go back and sand the whole thing again. Now I'm going to go up here on our cowl that we worked on and get that sanded down. And there is one more area that I need to fill that I thought would be a little bit of a problem area. There's a sink mark that goes all the way across the cowl right here, and I need to get rid of that. So that's something that I definitely don't like in here. But everything else, to tell you the truth, on the body is looking good. And this is the procedure. And I'm not going to sit here and do in all the little nooks and crannies and crevices and all that. The one thing I will touch on is, remember, we use the hobby knife to go in and score right along the trim. You want to take that hobby knife when you get this thing sanded and go back in there and run along that line and make sure all that stays cleaned out. Just run that line all the way around, and that way you won't have any problems at all when you get ready to cut your bare metal foil. You already have all that cleaned up. And then after you sand it, again, we're going to go back to the wide brush, clean all your panel lines out. This is a real good time to check and see if there's anything that got trapped in the panel lines. If it did, I just take the back side of the number 11 and just lightly come through the panel lines, clean out anything that you see in there. You're not trying to take any plastic out. You're just trying to take out whatever you see that's stuck in the panel line. And I'll do that all the way around all the panel lines just to make sure there's nothing in them. Because the last thing you want to do is trap it in here before paint. Because if you paint over top of it, then it's pretty much in there for good. And if you go back and score it after it's painted, a lot of times it'll come out with white plastic underneath of there, and you don't want that. So you want to do that all the way around, brush everything off, all your cracks and crevices and indentations, like around the back door here, scribe that, around the windshield, scribe that, and get everything cleaned up real nice. And then we will be moving on to the paint video. So next thing that we're going to do is the hood. We're going to go in and do a little bit of sanding on the hood. Same thing with the 3000 grit. We're just checking for any remaining mold lines or flaws that are jumping out at us. This is the time to pick all that up and get rid of it. If you don't get rid of it now, you're going to be painting over top of it. And once you paint over top of it, the only way you're going to get rid of it then is to either strip or go back in and do body work and repaint. So I try to save everybody that heartache by, making sure that you get everything prepped now and looking good before you start trying to get your final paint work down on here. So that's, as far as cleaning the hood up, that's all we have for that. And same thing with the lower body. We're just going to go over all the fenders and everything with the 3000. Try to get it 100% sanded, everything sanded out, check for mold lines, check for flaws. This will also knock out any dust or anything that might have got in the primer when you sprayed it. So this is a good time to get all of that stuff out of the finish and get ready for the fun part of painting. And that's basically all there is to it. Now, like I say, I'm not going to sit here on video and do the whole thing because that's the process and it doesn't change. It's just boring. And I'm sure it can be boring to watch somebody sit here and sand on primer. So we're not going to do that. But you'll get all that cleaned up. And then once we're done with that, we're going to move on to the spray booth. Like I said, this lower portion of the body will be sprayed with the Tamiya Racing White straight out of the can. And we will most likely go in and also put a clear coat over top of that. And so that's that part of it. And then the hood and the upper body is going to be sprayed with Tamiya Lavender. And I think that'll look pretty good. And then after that, we'll go in and we'll do the wood graining effect on all of the woody sections that's on it. Everything below this, what's going to be bare metal foil here, down through this curve and around the back here, and also on the rear door is also a wood style panel. So we're going to be going in and taping all that off. I'll show you the process for that. And we're going to be doing some airbrush work, a little bit of going in with a real thin wash on it and doing that. So a lot more coming up, but that's where we're at now. So just work on that part if you're following along, or if you're building your own model and you're kind of following the steps that we're doing here. Just get all that stuff sanded. Remember, on this 3000 grit, you will need to keep replacing it. It does wear down pretty quickly. So once you do like a major component or whatever, go cut off another piece about this big. This is about probably 1.5 inches by about maybe 3/4 of an inch, and cut off another piece and go at it again. And make sure that you don't skimp on your sanding. If this starts getting wore out, toss it to the side, get you a new one. It'll do the work that you need it to do. Cut the finish real nice. And then when you're done with that, I should be done with my part, and we'll be over at the booth and get ready to spray some paint. So until then, I want to thank everybody again for watching, all the nice comments, all the questions, all the interest in the tutorial series. And stay tuned. We got a couple more coming up. And as always, we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.